Okay, we're holding in the Gemara. We're actually beginning on the Mishnah on the Chav Zayin Amud Beis. So I'd like to dedicate the shir today, Leilu Nishmas, Rab Tzvi Abbe ben Rab Chaim Dov Ber, that unfortunately passed away this morning. The shir actually is being recorded in his house, where he lived for many, many years, about 40 plus years. Very, very special person, and he was on shlichus many years. He was a machanech for most of his life, for all of his life, his adult life. And another detail to mention also, since we're giving a shir here in Gemara, he gave a daf hayomi shir here in Crown Heights for many, many years in the Agudah Shul, consistently every single day, I believe. So the shir should be Leilu Nishmasai, and we should only hear good news going from here forward. Sagt the Mishnah, Kol hayotze min ha'etz, anything, any materials that comes from wood. Ein madliken boy, you can't light Shabbos candles with it. Ela pishton, besides flax could be used to light Shabbos candles. So there's a machlokes Rashi and Tosfos what hayotze min ha'etz means. Rashi says yotze min ha'etz is cannabis, which is hemp, and tzemer gefen, which is cotton. Tosfos, Rabbeinu Tam asks that you can't use cotton wicks. Rabbeinu Tam says, Maisim b'chol yom. We see that people use cotton wicks. You go to the store, Hanukkah time, you want to buy wicks. All these wicks are cotton wicks. Those are the best wicks. They burn beautifully. What's the problem with using cotton wicks? So Tosfos argues with Rashi, and Tosfos says Yotzim min ha'etz refers to something we spoke already about earlier in the beginning of the Perek, that there are certain trees that have like a woolly substance between the bark and the wood of the tree, and that's what it's talking about over here. But cotton is perfectly fine to use for Shabbos candles. Sagt der Mishnah weiter, V'chol hayotzim min ha'etz, anything that comes out of wood, Eine metame tumas oilim, does not become tame in the tuma of oilim, ela pishton, besides flax. So let me explain what this Mishnah is talking about. When it says here tumas oilim, there are two details to tumas oilim. The detail of tumas oilim that we usually speak about is that anything that's under a oihel, a roof, where if there's a dead body, and any other item, any other person that's under the same roof becomes tameh. That's tumas oil. That's not what this Mishnah is talking about. This Mishnah is talking specifically about the fact that if you look in the parsha where it talks about, in Parah Aduma, where it talks about tumah and tumas oil, it also says there that the oil itself becomes tameh as well. The actual oil itself becomes tameh. So what this Mishnah is saying is that this halacha, that the oil, the tumas oilim, that the oil itself becomes tamei, does not apply to yotzim min ha'etz. It doesn't apply to an oil that's made of materials that come from wood. It only applies to materials that come from pishton, from flax, from linen, which the Gemara will explain the source for this. So again, we're talking about the tumah of the oil itself, not the tumah that of anything that's beneath the oil, that applies to any other materials as well. The Gemara begins with a short thing, v'negei to pishton. Minalon, the pishton ikri eitz. From where do we know that flax would be called wood? The Mishnah says, Yotzim min ha'etz cannot be used for Shabbos lich besides pishton. So apparently the Mishnah considers pishton to be an eitz. I mean, you look at pishton, flax, it doesn't seem to be like a piece of wood. Amma Mazutra answers, the Amakra, the Pasuk says, Vihi ha'elosam hagaga, and she took him up to the roof, Va'titmenem bepishtei eitz, and she hid them in the pishtei eitz, in the flax of wood. So here in the Pasuk we see that the flax is called wood. If anybody remembers, we had this already in the Gemara in Brachas, when the Gemara was discussing, I believe it was benegeh to the bracha of Besamim, regarding the bracha of Beirei Atzei Besamim. So the Gemara there brought this very same pasuk to prove that pishton is considered to be eitzim. I didn't check it up now. I may have confused it with something else, but the Gemara brought this up in Brachas benegeh to something to determine that pishton is eitz. Now, the remainder of the Gemara until the next Mishnah will not be discussing the halacha regarding Shabbos candles, but it will be discussing the second halacha of the Mishnah, which is the tumas oil. That the tumas oil, that the oil itself becomes tamei, is only if it's made from flax. It's only if it's made from flax and not from other materials. Hayatzim and eitz, einem metamet tumas oilim. All other materials that are yatzim and eitz, that oil does not become tamei, elo pishton. The only material that comes from wood that becomes tamei is pishton. Now, as we'll see in the Amshach of the Gemara, there are other materials that could become tamei. But here we're talking specifically, in other words, the oil itself becomes tamei. Here we're talking specifically about yaitze min ha'etz. Regarding those materials that come from wood, from a tree, the only material that comes from a tree that the oil itself will become tamei is pishton, is flax. From where do we know this? Amar Rabbi Lazar says, Gomar oil mi mishkon. When we talk about the tumas oil, that it says in the parsha of the Tumas Meis, so the Torah there says oil many, many times, but it doesn't tell us what material that oil is made from. So therefore we learn the material that it says by Tumas Meis from the oil that it says mi mishkon, what it says by the mishkon. Ksiv hacha, by the parsha of Tumas Meis it says, Zeis ha-Torah adam ki yamus ba-oihel. So it says oil. What kind of oil are we talking about? Uksiv hasam, by the Mishkan it says, Vayifreis es ha'oil al ha-Mishkan. And the oil was spread on the Mishkan. Ma lahalon, just as over there, shal pishton, kari oil, the yiriyos that was spread, the covering, the yiriyos that was spread over the Mishkan is made partially out of linen. What's one of the things that it was made out of was linen. It was made out of wool, different types of wool, cheles, argaman, and so on, but also sheish, which is linen, comes from flax. So therefore, we see over there that it calls it oihel, kari oihel, afkan shal pishton kari oihel. So too over here we learn out that pishton that comes from a plant that grows and is called a eitz, as the Gemara said before, is also called an oihel and becomes tamei with tumas meis. The Gemara, so if you have this gzeira shava, if you're comparing the oil that it says by Tumas Meis to the oil that it says by the Mishkan, why not compare it all the way? Imalalon shizurin, if over there was spun together, the chuton, it was threads spun together, the chuton kafel vav, and the threads that were used were doubled up, were sixfold, as it says over there. There was cheles argaman, it was all doubled up 6 times. Afkan shazurin v'chutan kafel vav. Maybe the tumah that the oil becomes tamei should also be only in a case where it's spun together and it's doubled, it's 6-fold like it was there. And for the Gemara, yes, we have gzeira shava, but we also have another pasuk. Talmud loima oil. Over here by Tumas Meis, it says in the pasuk a double lashon. Actually, it says more than twice. It says a few times the term oil. Adam kiyamas ba'oil, v'chalabala oil. It says a few times the term oil. Riba, it comes to add and say that even if it's not exactly the way it was by the Mishkan when it's doubled and it's shazor like it was there, it still becomes tamei. Frag the Gemara, oil riba. So if you're telling me that you have extra words oil that's marbe, that it doesn't have to be compared exactly to the Mishkan, so then I'll feel a kol milinami. So maybe that should tell me any kind of tent, any kind of roof that's above the mace, the oil itself becomes tamei, and not like it was in the Mishkan. And for the Gemara, in Cain, if you're going to say that we have a ribui that's marbe anything, gzeira shava maya hanile. So then what benefit, what do we learn from the gzeira shava? Gzeira shava, we're not learning anything from it. So in order for the gzeira shava to stand, and at the same time the ribui of oil also to stand, so we say that the gzeira shava teaches me that it's only linen, like it was in the Mishkan. And the ribui teaches me that it doesn't have to be exactly like in the Mishkan, where it was shazurin and kafel 6 times. Sagt the Gemara weiter, ve'emen. Now if you're comparing to the Mishkan, so let's go a step further and say, malalon kroshim. Just like over there, what forms the tent, there's the walls as well. There's the kroshim that form the walls of this tent of the Mishkan. Avkan kroshim. So over here as well, I should say that kroshim is the beams, right, should also be mekabel tumah. Why only flax? Why are we only comparing it for the pishton, the pishton which was in the yiriyos? And for the Gemara, amakra, because if you look into the pasuk, how does it describe the kroshim? Vasisa kroshim le mishkan. You should make the kroshim for the mishkan. This lashon implies that the kroshim is considered to be a support for the mishkan. It's 2 separate things. There's the mishkan, and then there's the krashim for the mishkan. So therefore the mishkan is not included in this. Mishkan, kari mishkan, the yiriyos, the bottom layer of yiriyos, which is called mishkan in the Torah, that is the mishkan. That is referred to, that's compared, that's called mishkan, as Rashi here explains. Let me just explain. It's going to be negay also to the Hemshchel Gemara here. When you look at the yiriyos, there were 3 layers of the yiriyos of the Mishkan, or according to one opinion, maybe 4 layers, as we'll see. But generally, the 3 layers were, there was the yiriyos HaMishkan, that's what it's called in the Torah, that's the bottom layer, that was made out of wool and linen. Then there's the layer above that, which is made out of izim, it's made out of goat's hair. And then there's the layer above that, as we'll see, which is made out of elim adamim, that comes from the hide of a ram and from the tachash, as the Gemara will discuss. Those are the 3 layers. So right now the Gemara is talking about the bottom layer. The bottom layer, Mishkan, Kari Mishkan. It's called Mishkan, and because it's called Mishkan, so Rashi says, Mishkan is interchangeable with Oyhel. As you see in the pasuk, it says, Es Mishkan Oyel Mayid. So because the yiriyos are called mishkan, and the yiriyos above that, the second layer, is certainly called oyhel, because it's actually called yiriyos ha'oyhel in the pasuk. So therefore those coverings over the mishkan are called oyhel, and therefore we compare it to the oil that it says by tumas meis, and just like they, whatever materials they are, we compare them to tumas meis, that the oil itself becomes tamei, but not the krashim. The krashim are li mishkan. It's for the mishkan. Ve'ein krashim kriyim mishkan, but we don't find that the krashim themselves are called mishkan. Ela meyata, frek the Gemara, if so. So what's about the top layer? Vasisa michse la'oil. The top layer, as I mentioned, which was made out of the hide of a ram. So what is the lashon the pasuk uses? You should make another cover, that is for the oyhel. The oyhel was the second layer. The second layer is called the oyhel. Again, the bottom layer was called mishkan. The second layer was called oyel, and the top layer is called a michse, the cover. And the pasuk says, michse le-oyel, a cover to the oyel. Hachanami, so over here as well, michse lo yikri oyel. According to what you're saying, by krashim it says krashim li mishkan, and therefore the krashim is not called mishkan, it's not called an oyel. So the michse, the cover of the hide of the rams, is also not called oyel. It's a michse le-oyel, for the oyel. So what's the problem? Maybe taka that is so, that it's not called oyhel. But the Gemara says that can't be, because the boy Rabbi Lazar. So we know Rabbi Lazar asked this question. What was his question? The hide of a tamei animal, can it become tamei with the tum of oil, oil amaze, and the oil of amaze? And again, what we're talking about over here is that the actual oil itself becomes tamei. So Rabbi Lazar asked this question: does the hide of a tamei animal become tamei or not? So now, so the Gemara explains, Hashta, now, the hide of a tired animal does not become tamei. Because if you're going to say that the hide of the ram that was on the top, that was a michse, is not an oil, it's only a michse oil, and therefore that does not become tamei. A ram is a tired animal. It does not become tamei. So he has a question about a tamei behemoth. Why does he have a question about a tamei behemoth? The hide of even a tired behemoth does not become tamei if you'll say that when it says michse le oil, it's not a oil and it's not part of the Gzeira Shabbos, so it doesn't become tamei. If oil behemoth tahira doesn't become tamei, oil behemoth tamei shouldn't become tamei either. So how can we say this? So therefore the Gemara says no. Shani Hasam, the Hadar Ahadre Kra. When it comes to the cover that was made from this hide of the ram, the pasuk includes it and says that it's compared to the other yiriyos that were below it, and therefore it's like them and it will become tamei. The pasuk says, V'nasu es yiriyos ha-mishkan, v'es oyel mayed. So the yiriyos ha-mishkan is the bottom layer, then yiriyos ha-oyel mayed is the second layer, and then michseyu u'michsei ha-tachash. And then the top layer, which was made from the hide of the ram, and also from the tachash, asher olav, which was on top. So in this pasuk we see makish elyon letachtin. I compare the bottom layers to the top layers to the bottom layers. Ma tachtoin kari oil, just as the two bottom ones are called oil. Af elyain, so too the top covering, the michse, is also called an oil. So therefore, the hide of a behemoth, Tahira for sure will be Makabel Tumah. It's part of this Gzeira Shava and it will be Makabel Tumah, but not the Kroshim. The Kroshim is not part of this Gzeira Shava. Regarding the Kroshim, the Torah writes Kroshim li mishkon. So the conclusion of this sugya here is that what it says by Oyhel Benegeh to Tumah and Tara, we compare it to oil that it says by the Mishkan, and again we're talking about the oil itself being Makabel Tumah. So what's Makabel Tumah? Whatever the materials that were used for the Yiriyas in the Mishkan. What are they? It's either Pishtan, which is linen, flax, or wool, which is also in the lowest covering of the Yiriyas, was made out of wool as well, or goat's hair, which was the second layer, or the hide of a ram or the hide of any kosher animal is also Makabel Tumah. But the behemoth tmeya, that was Rabbi Elazar's shaila, which the Gemara will now discuss barichas. Gufa. So let's go back to the statement itself that Rabbi Elazar asked. Boy, Rabbi Elazar had a question. Or behemoth tmeya, the hide of a tamei animal, ma'oshi tamet tumas ayelin. Could it become tamei with the tumah of ayelin? Ma'ai kami boyele. What is his question? What's the question of Rabbi Elazar? Why is he asking this? If the hide of a ram is a ta'ir animal, and that's what was in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan that is, so then obviously a hide of a tamei animal is not Makabel Tumah. Rabbi Elazar is the same person before that said, Gamar oil mi Mishkan. The halacha of the Tumah, whether the oil is Makabel Tumah, is learned from the Mishkan. So by the Mishkan it was a ta'ir animal, not a tamei animal.
Why the distinction?
Why to make a difference? Well, it's Gzeiris HaKosov. The whole thing that dafke this and not something else, it's apparently it's Gzeiris HaKosov. So if it was a behemoth tahira, the Oires Elim Adamim, the hide of a ram, so then why is he even having a question? Besides the Oires Elim Adamim, the hide of the ram, there's also the hide of a tachash, and which was in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's his question. Tamei haya or tahir haya? This tachash, was it tamei or tahir? That was the source of his question. If it's tamei, so then it could be included in the Gzeira Shava, and if not, if it was tahir, so then we only know that a tahir animal is Makabel Tumah. Amar Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef answered this shaila, Ma'iti boile. What's the question? Tanina. We learned this in a Braisa. It's not fit to be used for Melechas Shamayim. Only the hide of a ta'ir animal. So if the tachash is being used for the Mishkan, we should assume that it was ta'ir, because the Mishkan is certainly Melechas Shamayim, a work done for the sake of heaven. Rabab asked a question. We learned in another Braise. Rabbi Yehuda says, Shnei mechsais hayu. The Oires Elim Adamim, the hide of the ram, and the hide of the tachash were actually two separate coverings. Echad shel Oires Elim Adamim, the Echad shel Oires Tchashim. One was the Oires of the Elim, and the other one was from the Tchashim. Rab Nechemya said, Michse echad haya. They made it into one covering. Part of it, half of it, was from the hide of the ram that was painted red, dyed red, and also it was part of it was from the tachash. V'daime, and on this tachash, he says, was kimin tala ilan. It was like a tala ilan, which is some kind of a cat that has a skin that has the spots on it, or let's say, I guess you can say like a tiger that has the spots on it. Okay, so this is also some kind of a cat that has these kind of spots on it. So that's what Rab Nechemya says. So the Gemara says, "Va tala ilan tamehu." This tala ilan is not a tired animal. So if that's what the tachash was, if it was a tala ilan, so we see right over here that Rab Nechemya is asking that it's not it's a tamei animal. And for the Gemara, hachikama. This is how you read what Rab Nechemya said. Kimin tala ilan hu. It's similar, it's like a tala ilan, sheyesh bei gvanin harbe. This tachash had a lot of beautiful colors like this tala ilan. But v'loy tala ilan. It's not this tala ilan. It's a different creature that was created in that time. Dilo asam tamei, the tala ilan is tamei, and v'hacha tahir. And this tachash, according to Rav Yosef, is tahir because it's l'melechus shamayim. It's being used for the mishkon and it has to be tahir. Rav Yosef, and so Rav Yosef continued and said, Ihachi, if so he brings a proof for what he said. This is the pshat why the Targum says on the tachash sas gaina. What does sas gaina mean? In other words, the Targum says sas gaina. The Targum doesn't say tala ilon. What's sas gaina? Shesas begvanen harbe. This tachash is happy with the many beautiful colors that it had. And that's what was used in the Mishkan. Rava says, Rava disagrees. Rava says that the hide of a tamei animal, the metame b'oil hameis, it will become tamei in oil hameis. And he mehacha, he brings it from the following braisa. So he disagrees with Rabbi Yosef. It does become tamei. The Tanya, we learned in Abraisa, oir. So this is a pasuk that it says by Negoyim. By Negoyim it says there that the tzemer and pishtim, as we learned already before, a garment of tzemer and pishtim becomes tamei. And then it says also oir be oir. So the Braisa begins. Oir. It could have simply said the hide as well. Why does it say oir be oir or the hide? Riba, it comes to add that even the hide of a tamei animal will also become tamei with a nega. And it adds another thing, vishalaka biyad koyin. And even if the nega came out after the kohen took it into his hand to inspect it. Even though if you look in the simple pshat of the pasuk there, it's talking about tzemer and pishtim. Tzemer comes from a tahir animal, and the pasuk there says that once the nega comes out, then the kohen takes it into his hands. So you would think maybe if the nega came out later, it's not tamei. So the oy be oir comes to say that even the hide of a tamei animal is going to be tamei, and even after if the nega came out after the kohen took it into his hands. Katzatz mikulon. Also, if he cut pieces from different materials, v'asa achas mehen, and he made one piece of garment from all of them, that's from tzemer or from pishtim, and then from the oir, from hide of an animal, minayim, from where do I know that that's also tamei? Talmud loymar, oy b'chol meleches oir. Oy b'chol meleches oir is adding, even when you combine from all of them together, one garment, it still is going to become tamei with the negatzaras. So from here, the Gemara wants to say, just like by negat saras, it becomes tamei, even if it's the hide of a tamei animal, we could learn out the same thing for the tumah of an oil as well, that it becomes tamei. But the Gemara says, Vekala mifrach. This limud from Negayim could be refuted, because Negayim has a chumrah that we don't find by tumas meis, and this is a chumrah that we already learned about before. Mala Negayim shekein shesi ve'erev tami behen. By Negayim there's a specific chumrah that even a shesi ve'erev, the threads of the shesi and erev become tamei, even if it's not a garment, and that's not a chumrah you find b'negayat to the oil of tumas meis. So we can't learn from there. Ella rather, gomar mishrotzim. You could learn out that the hide of a tamei animal will become tamei by a tumas oil from shrotzim. The Tanya, we learned in Abraisa, oir. So again, by shrotzim, the Torah writes, oir. Ainli ella oir behemoth tahira. So from that I know that the hide of a tired animal is tamei with the tumah of a sheretz. Or behemoth tmeya minayim. From where do I know that the hide of a tamei animal is also tamei with the tumah of a sheretz? Talmud loymar oy oir. The pasuk there adds the word oir to include even a tamei animal. So we can compare from shrotzim to tumas oil by a mace as well, that it becomes tamei even with the hide of a tamei animal. But again, the Gemara says, Vekala mifrach. The limud from shrotzim to tumas mace could also be refuted. Mala shrotzim, by shrotzim there's a chumrah, and we also learned this before, shekei metamim b'chadasha. By the tumah of shrotzim, the tumah is even a tiny size of a lentil. So that is a special chumrah. So you can't learn tumas meis. Tumas meis has to be at least a kazayas. So now the Gemara says, here the Gemara introduces a tzad hashava. A tzad hashava is when you learn from two together. If they have a common denominator that could be compared to a third that shares the same common denominator, you could learn out. Negayim yechichu. So let's go back and try to prove it from Negayim. V'chazar adin, and this goes back and forth. You can't learn from either one because each one has a unique chumrah that doesn't allow you to learn by tumas meis. But then we say, this cannot be compared to this. And this can't be compared to this. Meaning that Negayim has one chumrah that Shratzim does not have. Shratzim has a different chumrah that Negayim doesn't have. They don't share the same chumrah. But there is a tzad hashava that they share. There's a common denominator. A tzad hashava sheben, the common denominator is she'or tamei behen, that hide she'or tamei behen, that hide becomes tamei by them. Meaning that a nega applies even to the hide of an animal. The tumah of sheretz applies even to the hide of an animal. And also, v'asa or behema tmeya ka'or behema tahira. And we see that the Torah makes the hide of a tamei animal to be the same as the hide of a tahir animal. So afanayavi, so I can compare and say that the same common denominator is found by oil ames. She'or tamei by, the hide of an animal is applies to tumas mace. The hide of a tahir animal we know applies by tumas mace, which we learn out from the mishkon, as we said before. So v'nasa boy or behemet meik or behemet tahira. If so, we could learn out from shratzim and negayim together that we compare the hide of a tamei animal to a tahir animal. This is the classic limud of a tzad hashava, when we learn out a common denominator that's shared by two cases, and we could learn from there to a third case to say that over here the oil of a behemet becomes tamei just like the oil of behema tahira. This is the conclusion of the way Rava learned out that an oil of a tamei animal becomes tamei, not like Rav Yosef. Amalei Rava mi barnish le Rav Ashi. Rava mi barnish said to Rav Ashi, no ikla mifrach. We could still refute this limud of both shratzim and negayim together. Ma la tzad hashava sheben. You know, there's a chumrah that they both share that tumas meis does not have. Shekain tmein bepachis mekazayis. Both by shratzim and negayim, their tumah is less than a kazayis. By sheretz it's a lentil, and by negayim it's a gris, which is a bean, but it's less than a kazayis. The size needed for the tumah of a maize has to be a kazayis, so it doesn't have that chumrah that they both share. So you can't learn out from there. Rav mi barnish says he has a different source. Asya, and this goes back, connected to what we learned before, that we learned these things by the tumah of oil maize, we learn it from the mishkon. Asya bekal v'chaymer minoitza shel izim. We could learn it out with a kal v'chaymer from the hair of a goat. As I mentioned before, the second layer of the yiriyas in the mishkon was made of goat's hair. So therefore, that's certainly included in the gzeira shaveh, that by oil maize, the goat's hair becomes tamei. So now the kal v'chaymer will be as follows. Minoitza shel izim she'ein metame b'negayim. Goats here does not become tamei by negayim. As we learned already this before, by negayim it has to be either tzemer or pishtim or oir of a behema tahira, or we mentioned before behema tmeya, but not the oir of an izim. So nevertheless, metame by oil ameis, but by oil ameis, we see that it's more stringent and it does become tamei, even if it's made from goat's hair, because we learned that from the mishkon. So we see a stringency here by the oil ameis. So oir behema tmeya shemetame b'negayim. So the hide of a tamei animal which does become tamei b'negayim, ein adin shemetame by oil ameis. So definitely it should also become tamei by oil ameis. If we see that by oil ameis, the goat's hair that does not become tamei with negayim becomes tamei with for oil ameis, for sure the hide of a tamei animal which becomes tamei by negayim should for sure become tamei by oil ameis. That's the kal v'chaymer that Rav mi barnish learned out. So now the Gemara goes back. So Rava and Rav mi barnish both argued on Rav Yosef that said that the oil even the oil of a behema tmeya becomes tamei by oil ameis. So now Rav Yosef argued with them. What was Rav Yosef's source? Rav Yosef said that the tachash that was used by the mishkan must have been of a tahir animal. Why? Because it's meleches shamayim. It's being used for the mishkan. For the mishkan, it has to be a tahir animal. But now, according to Rava and Rava mi barnish, that's not necessarily the case. Even a oir behema tmeya is also tamei. So lav dafke, that's the case. So what is that statement? The Elah, the Tani Rav Yosef. Now this that Rav Yosef said, Lo yuchshru b'meleches shamayim Ela oir behema tahira bulvad. that what was used for Melechas Shemayim, what could be used? What's fit to be used for Melechas Shemayim? Only the hide of a toyer animal. Lamai Hilchasa, regarding what was this said? So let me explain this again, according to what Rashi says over here. The question of the Gemara is, according to Rav Yosef, this statement, this Braisa, has a relevance lahalacha. The relevance is that now we know that we can learn from here that only a toyer animal, the hide of a toyer animal, becomes tamei by oil ames. But according to Rava, that's not true. Even the hide of a tamei animal becomes tamei and oil ames. So there's no relevance to the fact that in the mishkon it was tamei, it was toyer. Ma'inaf gemina. There's no relevance with lamai hilchasa. As Rashi says, the Braisa wouldn't say something if it has no relevance. Ma'ida hava hava. What's the naf gemina? So therefore the Gemara says l'tfilin. The naf gemina will be to the halacha of tefillin. That tefillin has to be made from, which is also meleches shemayim, tefillin has to be made from the hide of an animal which is tahir. Frag the Gemara, tefillin, you needed to teach me for tefillin, that's what this Braisa was talking about. The pasuk clearly says, Laman tiyeh teiras Hashem beficha. And from here we learn out, mina mutter beficha. You could only use the hide to write the tefillin on it from something which is mutter to you to eat. Only from a tahir animal, not from a tamei animal. So it can't be talking about tefillin. The Braisa wouldn't just say lahuchshru b'melechas shemayim. It's a befeidish pasuk that it says by tefillin. Ella sagt the Gemara la'oiron. We're not talking about the parchment of the tefillin that you write the parshiyas on and it has Hashem's name on it and so on. We're talking about the oiron. We're talking about the bottom of the tefillin that you make from the hide of the animal. For that, you had the Braisa is telling you that it has to be made from tired animal, because that's also melechas shemayim. But even for the bottom as well, Abaye said, Shin shel tefillin, there's a Shin from the Eibishter's name, Shin Daled Yod, that has to be in the bias of the tefillin. Halacha l'Moshe Misina, there's halacha l'Moshe Misina, you have to have a Shin from Hashem's name. So just like the parchment, you write the parshiyas on it, and that has to be min amutta beficha. So too, the bottom of the tefillin also have the shin of Hashem's name on it, and it's also included in what it says in the pasuk, Leman tiyeh teiras Hashem. This is also teiras Hashem. Just like the parchment is teiras Hashem, the shin of Eibishter's name is also teiras Hashem. So therefore, we don't need this Braisa to tell me here that Huchshuru b'mlechas Shamayim. This is a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. The Braisa didn't say that it's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. Rabbi Kiveger asks the question, how about the Tefillin Shel Yad? The bias of the Tefillin Shel Yad does not have a shin on it. Maybe it refers to the bias of a Tefillin Shel Yad. I go to Shaila does. Okay? Elo, so the Gemara says, L'koirchan besaran. Maybe it's talking about something else. The tefillin, the parshis of the tefillin have to be wrapped with the hairs of an animal. Or the teifran has to be wrapped with the hairs of the animal that you wrote the parchment with. In other words, from a toyer animal. Or the teifran begidon. And when you sew the bottom together, it has to be sewed with the sinews of the toyer animal. So maybe it's for this as well. Frag the Gemara, Hanami halacha l'Moshe Misinai. This as well as a befeidish halacha l'Moshe Misinai. The Tanya, we learned in another Braisa, tefillin meruba'is, the fact that tefillin have to be square, halacha l'Moshe Misinai. The kracha is bisaron, and that you have to wrap it with the hairs of the animal and of the hairs of the animal that the parchment is written from, meaning from a toyer animal. Vinit pares begidon, and it's sewed with the sinews of a toyer animal, is also an halacha l'Moshe Misinai. So that's not what the Braisa that Rav Yosef mentioned was talking about. This is a different thing. This is a befeidish halacha l'Moshe Misinai, which wasn't mentioned in that Braisa. Elo, the Gemara says, L'ritzuais. The halacha of l'melechas shemayim that you have to use only from tahir is not going not on the parshiyas, it's not going not on the bottom, it's not going not on the sinews or the hairs that are used for the tefillin, it's going on the ritzuais, on the straps of the tefillin. That we have to have a special Braisa telling me that it has to be from a tahir animal. Fragt the Gemara, but for ha'amar Rav Yitzchak, ritzuais shcheirais halacha l'Moshe Misinai. The black straps of the tefillin is also halacha l'Moshe Misinai. And the Gemara is assuming that if so, probably also the fact that it has to be from a tired animal is also halacha l'Moshe Misinai. So the Gemara answers no. Nihi the gemiri shchayrais. We do learn out from the halacha l'meshmisina that it has to be black straps. Tahayrais migmiri. Do we learn out that the ritzuos have to be from tired animal? That we don't learn out. So that's what the Braisa was saying according to Rava that argued with Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said it goes on the mishkon. The mishkon is melechas shemayim, and therefore it has to be a tired animal. That's the halacha we learn from there, that it's negaya to the halacha of an oil of tumas meis. And according to Rava, we learn out over here, but negaya to the ritzuos of tefillin. So, take a matter of weiter. My havi Allah the tachash shahaya b'mei Moshe. What's the story with the tachash that was in the time of Moshe? What is it, a tired animal or was it a tamei animal? According to Rava, it's lav dafka. We don't know what it was. Amar Abba Amar Rab Shimon ben Lakish, Oy mehoy Rab Meir. Rab Meir said, Tachash shahaya b'mei Moshe, the tachash that existed in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu for the Mishkan, Berye b'fnei atzmai haya. It was a species for itself. It was a creature for itself. And the Chachamim could not come to a conclusion in min chayahu, in min behemahu. Is it a chaya or a behema? And also another thing it says, that with this we know that the keren achas hoisaloi b'mitzchay. It had one horn that came out of its forehead. Ulefisha nizdameloi l'Moshe, and for that time period it was found by Moshe. It came, the Eibusha brought it to Moshe, and v'asam imeno mishkan, and he built from it the mishkan. He made the hide, the covering for the mishkan, v'nignas, and then it was concealed. Interesting. So in the lashon of this Gemara, it sort of sounds like it was an animal that existed in that time, and then it became extinct. But in other places, in the Yerushalmi, in the Medrash, it sounds like even more. The Medrash actually says beferish that it was created b'derech nes. It wasn't created in Shesh Yismei Bereishis. It was created b'derech nes for that time period, specifically for the Mishkan.
What's the relevance?
The horn, weiß ich nicht. Yeah, I don't know. But in the lashon of our Gemara, it's not mashma that it was b'derech nes necessarily. The Yerushalmi and the Medrash and the Tanchuma, it's mashma that it was mamish b'derech nes. Yeah, this was a special Indian, the Tachash. Amar Abalam. Sorry, let me go back where I was holding over here. So now the Gemara says, looking at this keren that it had, one detail we know about this tachash, that it had this one horn in its forehead. Shmami not tahir haya. Wouldn't this be a raya that it was tahir, an animal that's tahir? Why? Damar Rabbi Yehuda, Shoyer shehikriv Adam Arishain, the ox that Adam Arishain brought as a carbon, keren achas haisle b'mitzchay. It had one horn in its forehead, and a shoyer, of course, is a tired animal. Shenema, the pasuk says, "Visitav Lashem mishoyer par," that it is better for the Eibusha, is greater for the Eibusha when you praise him from a shoyer par makrin mafris, which has a horn and split hooves. So now the Gemara says makrin tarti mashma. Makrin sounds like the horns that there are by an animal usually, which are two horns. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak mikeren ksiv. But we can read it also, it's written without an akudis, we can read it as mikeren, and therefore it means one horn. So v'lishait minei. So over here we see that this was a tahir, just like the shoyer that Adam Arishain. Huh? So one second. So the Gemara says, so Shma we see from here that it was a tahir. Now the Gemara says, V'liv shait minei, we should also be paishet from here, the min behemahu, that it was a min behema, like the shoyer, which is a min behema. So the Gemara says, no, the shoyer is not the only case where we find by Adam Arishain that there was an animal with one horn that came out of his forehead. Even the ikke keresh, there's a keresh, the min chayehu, which is a chaya. It's some kind of a deer, I believe, that has one horn. One horn it has. So therefore, we see that there's a behemoth that's mentioned that had one horn. There's a chaya that has one horn. So therefore, it's possible we can't determine if it's a min chaya or if it's a min behema. That's the conclusion of the sugya of the tachash that was used in the Mishkan. Zok the Mishnah, psiles habeged, going back to the halachis of lighting Shabbos candle, using wicks made out of garments. Shekipla, he specifically folded it thin enough to be for a wick. But v'loy hivhava, he didn't singe it, that it should be prepared to use for a wick. So Rabbi Elazar says, Tmeyahi. If that's the case, it's still Mekabel Tumah. In other words, it's still considered to be a beged. The fact that you folded it for a wick does not remove its status as being a beged, which is Mekabel Tumah. They madlikim bo, and you can't light with it for Shabbos candles. Rabbi Akiva says Tahirahi. Once you folded it to be a wick, it's not a beged anymore, and therefore it's Tahir, umadlikim ba, and you could light Shabbos candles with it. Now, regarding their argument, taking a garment and folding it to be used as a wick, so we can understand what Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Akiva are arguing about. This is their argument. The Rabbi Elazar says, Kippul ain't a mile. The fact that you folded it to be a wick does not help to change its status. It remains in its previous status, which is a garment. Rabbi Akiva says, Kippul mile. That when you fold it to be a wick, that helps, it changes the status of betuli bottle. The previous status is annulled, and therefore now it's not makabel tumah, it's not a beged anymore. So that's machlekes we could simply understand. But regarding lighting Shabbos candles, b'mai pligi, what's the basis of the argument between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Akiva whether it could be used for Shabbos candles? Why shouldn't it be able to be used for Shabbos candles? If it's made out of the proper material, which we mentioned before, so then why not? So Rabbi Elazar says as follows. Here we're talking about a very, very specific case, as the Gemara will explain. Number one, begimel al gimel mitzum tzomes. We're talking about a piece of garment that was exactly 3 by 3 etzba'is, I believe it is. Exactly, 3 by 3 etzba'is. Askina, that's what we're speaking about. Ubiyamtiv, another detail, Ubiyamtiv shachaliyais erev Shabbos askina. We're talking about a case where he's lighting Shabbos candles and it's Yomtiv. Erev Shabbos is Yomtiv. So now here's the issue. The first thing the Gemara brings up is, the first issue we could have is muktzeh. Before I read it inside, there's a concept of Yontiv which is called Noilad. Anything that's Noilad, that's born, or that's new, a new thing that comes into existence on Yom Tov, because it didn't exist when Yom Tov came in, so therefore it wasn't designated for this use. It's something new that's created, and therefore it's muktzeh. This is the concept of Noilad, which is muktzeh. We'll learn about this in Mitzvah Shem, in Masechta Bei, Barichas, and also later in the Gemara. So here the Gemara says as follows: the Kula Alma Isluhu de Rabbi Yehuda. Both Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Akiva agree to what Rabbi Yehuda says, which is the Amar Masikin Bekalim. You could make a fire and you could use for the fire any kalim which was already designated for use when Yom Tov came in, so it's not muktzeh. But ve'im masikin b'shivrei kalim. If any keli broke on Yom Tov, so now it's nailad. It's a new entity that came into being on Yom Tov itself. Before, when Yom Tov came in, it was a keli. It was for that use. And now it's a new entity, it's a broken keli, and you want to use it for a fire because it's something new, so therefore it's muktzeh, and you're not allowed to use it. That's one statement of Rabbi Yehuda that both Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Akiva agree to. Now, another thing. This is regarding lighting Shabbos candles. And everybody agrees to this, that Ula said, that we already mentioned once before. The Omar Ula said, Hamadlik, when you light Shabbos candles, Sarach Sheyadlik Beroiv Hayotze. You have to light it enough, not just light it a drop, you have to light it enough with the roiv of the wick that's sticking out so that it should burn on its own. Shall have us oila me'eleho. Okay, everybody agrees to that as well. So now, here's going to be the issue, benegeh to lighting from this garment that you went and folded and turned it into a wick on Yom Tov. What's going to be the issue? Rabbi Elazar says, Kippul ein amoyel. When you folded it, it doesn't change its status. It still is a piece of a garment. It retains its original status. The kivin the adlik bei porta, but the moment you light it, even just a drop, now it becomes like a broken garment. Why? Because it was exactly 3 by 3 etzba'is, which is the minimum size to be mekabel tumah. The moment you mamish like singe it, you light it just a drop, it becomes ois garment. And now, but v'chi kamadlik, b'sheva keli kamadlik. Ula said, you can't just light it a drop and take away your hand. You have to continue lighting most of the wick. So when you have to light most of the wick, you're using something which is muktzeh. And that's the problem here. Rabbi Akiva savar, but Rabbi Akiva says, kippul moyel. Once you folded it already into being a wick, that worked. Then titus kliyalov, it doesn't have a status of a garment anymore. So therefore, already from before Yontif, it was folded. It doesn't have the status of a garment. It's like you're lighting a piece of wood. It's not muktzeh at all, and therefore you can light with this on Yontif. This is Rabbi Kiva's. This is the pshat of Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Ishi. This is the pshat of a few Amirayim in the machlokes of Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yosef, so Rabbi Yosef commented on this. Haine de Tanine Gimel al Gimel mitzum tzameis. It said in a Braise that there's a certain Mishnah that's talking about 3 by 3 etzba'is mitzum tzameis. V'leyadayin elamai hilchasen. I don't know which Mishnah was this Braise learned. But umid the commentator Rav Ada Barava Liba de Rabbi Yehuda, now that Rav Ada Barava explained that this Mishnah here, the machlekes of Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Kiva, was talking about this specific case, which was dafke by a piece of garment that was exactly 3 by 3 etzba'is. Shma mina that ke Rav Yosef Svirelei. Ke Rav Yehuda Svirelei, yes, that it goes according to Rav Yehuda, and that Rav Ada Barava goes like Rav Yehuda. Okay, let me read this again. Let me back up a second. I converged the two pieces of the Gemara together over here. There's two different statements here, and we'll finish with this for today. First, Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef, Haine de Tanina, Gimel al Gimel mitzum tzameis v'leyadayin elamai hilchasa. Period. That tells us what that Braise was talking about, that it goes on our Mishnah. Now the Gemara starts a new inyan, umidika metaretz Rav Ada Barava Liba de Rav Yehuda Shma mina Rav Yehuda Svirelei, and the Gemara is going to question that, as we'll learn in Mitzvah Shem in the Hemshech tomorrow, Motzei Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos, everybody, and we should only hear Besuras Tevis from here going forward, and we should see already the Geula Shleim L'Mata Masarat Tvachim.